Yes, they did. Okay, the time is now 6:02 p.m. The school board trustee meeting for October 21st will come into session. Mr. Poppy, was the meeting properly posted?
It was.
And do we have a quorum?
We do.
Great. All right.
President Laredo, school board members, Dr. O'Brien. The opening exercise for the October 21st, 2019 board meeting will be presented by students from San Jacinto Elementary School. We will begin the opening ceremonies with the prayer led by Jessica Woods. Everyone please rise.
Please bow your heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your guidance and your wisdom, and we hope that you will bless this meeting and all those present. Give us the strength and courage and the direction to make decisions and face the challenges before us. Place your comfort and protection over this community, our district, our students, their families, and our staff. Come into our hearts and minds so that we may better serve your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
The pledges will be led by Barbara Paz and Michael Ward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, with allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible.
The following students will perform the song Stinky Pirates. With us tonight we have Emily Aguilar, Georgina Buenrostro, Carson Compton, Mercy Garcia, Ava Haley, Giancarlos Hernandez, Carmen Jackson, Jesse Limas, Barbara Paz, Valentina Vargas, and Michael Ward. The students are under the direction of music teacher, Mr. Danny Mejia, and their principal, Mrs. Rachel McAdam.
We thought we'd coincide with another dress-up holiday. I don't know if you guys know what it's called. It's happening sometime this month, but they are pirates for today.
We are stinky pirates, sailing on the sea, yes sir. Boots and buckles, swords and knuckles, pirates are we. Are 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho! We get very smelly, sailing on the sea, yes sir. From toes to pinky, we are stinky pirates. Are we? Are 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho! 1, 2, heave-ho!
We also wanted to share with you our creed that we give every single day. So, guys, can you share your creed with them? I
Believe in myself and I will do my best. Just for today, a positive attitude. I will listen, I will think, I will read, I will write, I will reason. I will do all these things with one person in mind, to prepare myself for college and I will this day. For this day will have no more.
And the special promise that you make to yourself is?
I promise to make this day count.
thank you so much. Those are the most educated, smelly, and stinky pirates I've ever met. If we have any parents or family members in the audience, can you please stand and be recognized? Thank you so much.
Our first recognition for the evening is the 2019 School Bus Safety Week proclamation. With us tonight, we have Mr. Rick Walterscheid, our Director for Transportation, and his staff, and we're going to ask them to come up and be recognized with their proclamation. The proclamation states, whereas yellow school buses are the safest possible vehicles for children according to state and national data, and whereas the Goose Creek CISD Transportation Department is committed to providing a safe, accident-free environment for the public school bus riders in Goose Creek who travel daily on our roadways, and whereas the exemplary safety performance exhibited each day by school bus operators on the roads of Goose Creek ensure the highest level of safety for other motorists and student riders, and whereas the local citizens and organizations are encouraged to support student and traffic safety activities associated with the National School Bus Safety Week, October 21st through the 25th, and whereas motorists must remember to stop when a school bus has stopped with its stop arms extended and red lights flashing, and whereas motorists should continue to be reminded about their role in ensuring the safety of children who are walking, bicycling, and getting off and on school buses, and whereas during National School Bus Safety Week, everyone is reminded to keep out a watchful eye for students going to and from school and to take extra precautions around students and school buses. Therefore, be it resolved that the GCCISD Board of Trustees recognizes School Bus Safety Week during the week of October 21st through the 25th. Next, I'd like to recognize Faith Longorio, our Social Studies Coordinator, and she will be recognizing our Texas History Day and National History Day competitors.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for giving us this opportunity to recognize our History Day competitors. Goose Creek has a 28-year tradition of competing at the state and the national level. So we were able to grab a good group of our students tonight. Some of them are absent, but I'm going to go through the students who are present first so that we can recognize them, and then I'll read the absent students as well. I'm going to start with our students who competed at nationals. Competing at nationals means that they placed either first or second place at the state level competition. So the first person we have is we're going to recognize Reese Benoit. She was a junior individual website. She placed second at Texas History Day for her project Galveston's 1900 Storm, a city's triumphant rise over waves of tragedy. She attends Cedar Bayou Junior School, and her sponsor was Ryan Rogers and Adam Clemens. Reese is actually an interesting anomaly. It's the second year I've gotten to take her to nationals. The previous year, she went in a completely different category, which is documentary. So now she has competed at nationals in 2 different categories, which is pretty amazing. Our next student is Brandon Broussard. He competed in senior historical paper. He placed second place at Texas History Day for his paper entitled New Deal Constitutionalism, the Tragedy of the Great Depression and the Triumph over Judicial Review. He attends Sterling High School, and his sponsor was Kathy Murray. He's also in junior high, he competed in group performance, which is a different category, and won nationals. So he has competed at nationals in 2 different categories as well. The next group of students we have are our state competitors. These are all people who placed at state competition. Fourth place at Texas History Day for junior individual website is Hannah Coker. Her project was entitled Triumph Despite Tragedy, The Miracle of Betty Robinson's Comeback. She attends Cedar Bayou Junior School, and her sponsor was Carlos Zayala. Fourth place at Texas History Day for junior historical paper was Simran Singh. Her project was titled Emmett Till, the tragic homicide that triumphantly influenced the civil rights movement. Simran attends Highlands Junior School, and her sponsor was Tyler Stafford. Fourth place at Texas History Day for senior historical paper, Isabel de la Rosa. Her project was entitled With Boldness and Precision, How Friedrich von Steuben Overcame the Tragedy of Valley Forge and Secured the Triumph for the Continental Army. She attends Sterling High School, and her sponsor was Amy Maddie. The following students all competed at Texas History Day, which means that they had to place first or second at the regional competition. For junior individual performance, Matthew Kosep with his project entitled Triumph and Tragedy of Ferdinand Magellan's Voyage. He attends Gentry Junior High, and his teacher was Patricia Offmet. Individual performance, we have Dylan Canton for his project entitled Paul Revere, The Real Story. He attends Gentry Junior High, and his teacher was Marilyn Redhead. For junior group website, Harsh Agrawal, and his project was entitled The Atomic Bomb, Scientific Triumph Over Human Tragedy. They attended Highlands Junior High, and their teacher was Tyler Stafford and Michelle Jones. His partner was Swayam Gupta. For junior group exhibit, Abraham Green, Alec Barbosa Chin, and Alan Chin for their entry For the Sake of Our Brethren. They attend Highlands Junior High School, and their teacher was Adrian Freeman. Okay. Okay, for senior individual documentary, Aaron Sood for his project From Businessport to Beach Town, The Triumph and Tragedy of Galveston. He attends Goose Creek Memorial High School, and his teacher was Stephanie Schroll. Senior group website, we have two of our participants out of the four tonight, Anushka Ranjan, Puneet Singh, and their two partners are Gabriel Brock as well as Atarv Shinde. For their project, Crisis at Central High, a month-long battle towards progress. They attend Goose Creek Memorial High School, and their teacher was Stephanie Schroll. We have some additional students that I want to just quickly name so that they'll be recognized. Two students that competed at Nationals, Trammy Wynn in senior website and Ruth Patino in senior exhibit. State History Day, Evelyn Longorio in senior individual documentary. She placed fourth. Others that were not present tonight, Connor Fanning for his junior individual documentary, Samantha Fan, Bridiana Nunez, and Liliana Garcia for group performance, Brooke Schroll for junior individual exhibit, Adam Kinder for senior individual documentary, Kevin Salazar for senior individual website. Thank you.
Next, we're going to go ahead and go into public hearing.
We have our public hearing for our optional flexible school day program application that will be submitted to the state. To be eligible to participate in this program, students must meet one of the following criteria. They either have to be at risk of dropping out of school, they have to attend a school implementing an approved innovative campus plan, a school with an approved early college high school program designation, bless you, or as a result of attendance requirements, be denied credit for one or more classes in which the student has been enrolled. And the student, if less than 18 years of age, or a person standing in parental relation to the student, agree in writing to the student's participation for the optional flexible school day program. So our public hearing, the Board of Trustees must hold a public hearing concerning the proposed application, and before applying to operate as an optional flexible school day program under the Texas Education Code. In addition, we must hold a public hearing annually to review the performance of these programs, and we do that when we have the TAPER report presentations. Our participating campuses would be Peter E. Highland, Impact Early College High School, and Stewart Career Tech, and they are not in Early College High School anymore. They are a P-Tech campus now. The program requirements, we must administer all the mandatory assessments. They're not excused from end-of-course exams or graduation requirements. We must provide the same instructional materials and facilities that we would for any other student. They will not be isolated from other academic or vocational programs. They must have access to counselors. We make sure that we provide knowledgeable, highly qualified instructors. They are not penalized in accordance with the 90% rule, and that's a part of that optional flexible school day. And it does require students to attend regularly scheduled instruction. That is an overview of the OFSDP program. Do we have any questions from the audience or the board at this time?
I think the board gets to ask questions when it comes out into our agenda. Does anybody from the public have any comments? Okay, we're going to close this public hearing at 6:21 p.m. Thank you, Dr. Duarte. Next, we have citizens' participation. The board will hear comments from the audience only during the public comment portion of this meeting. Individuals wishing to speak went ahead and registered with Ms. Garcia, and the board allows 3 minutes for public comment per person. Each speaker is allowed only 3 minutes. We do have two people that are, citizens who have registered in recording secretary may address the board on matters other than character on any student, staff, or board members. Since the item addressed by the speaker may not have been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Law, board members may only listen to individual statement and may not discuss each item with the patron or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Each individual heard shall be allotted no more than 3 minutes for the presentation. However, if more than 10 citizens register to address the board, one more time will be given by majority board vote. Today we have two people presenting, Jocelyn Mondragon and Dominique Medina. I want to remind you, you're not permitted to discuss specific students other than your own, other than you, I guess, during public comment. Please refrain from referencing other students. You have 3 minutes. Oh, I forgot to come here. Mr. Poppy will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining. And Ms. Mondragon, are you going to be the one speaking, or is it Ms. Medina? Okay.
We are the members of Project Lit. We are here to encourage you and others to participate in our project.
Hold on a second. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Dr. Duarte, would you double check it? Okay. Okay.
We are the members of Project Lit. We're here to encourage you and others to participate in our project. Project Lit is a community-wide event that is focused on keeping reading alive in Baytown, partnering with Baytown-owned Sterling Municipal Public Library, as well as Tina Andrade, the culinary arts teacher at the Stewart Career Center. Our shared passion for reading has given us the idea to plan out an event promoting this semester's selected book, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Thanks to the Goose Creek Educational Foundation grant and With the Fire on High. The book basically is about Imani raising her 2-year-old daughter at the start of her senior year. She finds herself soulless in culinary arts, crafting delicious meals and recipes. Imani is faced with hardships and sacrifices that must be made. Join us on Imani's adventure November 14th at the Stewart Career Center from 6 to 7 p.m. to taste a few of Imani's specialties thanks to the Stewart Career Center culinary program.
Thank you. Will we be receiving more information on an email, Ms. Patrick? Thank you so much. Thank you, young ladies. Next, we have approval of minutes for October 7th, 2019, our regular board meeting.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Woods, second by Mr. Clem. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Against? Abstain? We have motion passes for 4, 0 against, 3 abstentions. Thank you. Next, we have discussion items.
This evening for our superintendent's report, we have a presentation by Human Resources Department. Mr. Kappa and the Human Resources team will be presenting this evening. Following that, we'll have a presentation for Community Eligibility Provision, CEP, by Airmark and our food service team. Team, if y'all will go ahead and introduce yourselves and your position prior to starting.
I'm Eloy Kappa, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Tyrone Sylvester, Human Resources Director.
Ron Wyatt, Human Resources Director.
Lisa Steele, HR Coordinator.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. O'Brien, and members of the board. Each October, the HR department presents our annual personnel report. This process gives the board an overview of the current staffing demographics and an overview of the new hires from October 1st, 2018 through September 30th of this current year. Leading off this evening will be Dr. Ron Wyatt, followed by Dr. Tyrone Sylvester, Ms. Lisa Steele, and then I will conclude the presentation. So we're going to turn it over to Dr. Wyatt.
What I'll be talking to you about today is the demographic comparison of our new hires to our existing employees by their job categories. First, looking at our professional employees. This is all professional employees who are not on the teacher pay scale. So it's everyone who isn't a teacher, nurse, or librarian. On the left, you can see that is the demographic makeup of our existing employees. To the right is the demographic makeup of our newly hired employees in the professional group. In this next slide, this is the exact same information except for our teachers. One thing I do want to point out here is that it has been a push by our board for us to focus on making our employee demographics better match our student demographics. One thing that you can see here is that we have greatly increased the number of teachers we've hired who are minority, and in fact, 51% of the new teachers that we hired this year fell into a minority demographic group. Our paraprofessional employees, same information, and then also our auxiliary staff.
Next slide. Now we want to look at our qualifications for our new hires. The first thing I would like to point out is if you look under the pending due to ACP, CTE permit, you have 5 individuals there. Those individuals mainly represent our candidates who were hired under the DOI provisions that we have in the district. And the 10 pending out of state, those are our Texas one-year certified teachers, because what happens if you hire someone from out of state, the state gives them a Texas one-year certificate, and it gives them an opportunity to be able to test and figure out what they need to take in the state of Texas to become a standard certified teacher in the state. They normally have a year. They have a year to complete that process. When we look at new hires by highest degree earned, I want to point out you see those 9 individuals under associate's degree. Under those individuals, you're going to find your nurses, some nurses, and some CTE individuals who have associate's degree, because it includes nurses, librarians, as well as teachers, and so your nurses and your CTE individuals will fall under the associate's degree umbrella. Here, new hires by years of experience. We're a large school district, and in any large school district, you're going to have some 0-year teachers. We want to have some 0-year teachers as part of our process. But over the years, we've seen that number get lower and lower, so we were doing a better job of hiring more experienced teachers. But you still need those 0-year individuals to come into the organization and acclimate to that organization. So you have them run through the process. So we're making strides in those areas as well. Here it just basically gives you an overview of the new hires by campus level, so you can kind of have an idea of where those new hires are landing as far as the levels of instruction. These are this information about our ACP hires by campus level. One of the things I wanted to point out, and I think we've mentioned this before, but for the benefit of those who may not know, really your ACP programs that's where the majority of your teachers are coming from. I believe the last data we have is the ACPs are putting out probably about 51 to 52% of the teachers who are becoming certified. So the majority of your teachers are going to be ACP individuals. The traditional route is not the preferred route, and so we're seeing more individuals who are coming through the ACP route, and that's where you're getting the majority of your teaching talent from all of the school organizations is through the ACP process.
Now we're going to talk about tenure and experience. The first slide, you'll see all employees in the district, and in a little while you'll see the longitudinal data that will show the 0 years is actually declining. We are having a lot of former employees coming back into the district with years of experience in Goose Creek. And our teachers pretty much mirror our employees as a whole in the district. And you can see that 1 to 3 years is still relatively high. So those teachers that we are bringing into the district, we are retaining them. Separation report. I'll point out that one of the largest reasons that employees are separating or giving us a reason for separation is due to personal reasons at 16%. A lot of them are using moving as their reason, which is at 12%, and health reasons is another large area at 11%. Our exit interview responses is still showing a favorable amount of excellent and good in every category that we've asked our employees. You will still see some poor evaluations because we do have some separation of employees that are unfavorable.
I'm going to be covering the longitudinal demographics of employees. If you look at the top right-hand quadrant that has the teachers, you will see that the district has been making a genuine effort to hire more minorities. If you look at the black population from 17, 18, and 19, you can see the increase there. And you can also see it with the Hispanic population. On the bottom left-hand quadrant where you have the paraprofessionals, you see the same type of results as well. Here we're looking at a tenure in Goose Creek, and the first group is all employees. And here you will see from 17, 18, and 19 that those teachers with 0 years of experience, you do see that decline in number. That was a directive that we had from the board and from Dr. O'Brien to continue to hire teachers with 0 years of experience, but to cut that number down. You can also see the increase in those teachers from 1 to 3 years, 6 to 10 years, and 11 to 15 years. On the bottom part, you're looking at the teachers only, and you see those numbers decline again. In 17, 18, and 19, there's a decline there each year, and then you see the rise in the 1 to 3 years and the 6 to 10 years. On the new hires, again, on the top right-hand quadrant with the teachers, you see the minorities being hired, Black going up each year, and Hispanic going up as well. And then in the bottom left hand, the paraprofessionals, you see the same results there as well. And here you have years of experience from the new hires, and you see pretty much the same type of demographics and numbers. 1 to 3 years is, went down a little bit, but it has gone up some in the last few years. And then you see the increase in the 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 to 20 years. Questions, comments?
I had a question back on the slide where you show the degrees attained. You were talking about, let's see. Oh, and did we get this under separate cover, maybe, this report?
What do you mean by separate cover?
Well, it's not in our board book.
We updated it this morning, yes. So it could be a little bit different from what you had.
Did it email out? I didn't get it.
No, it did not email out.
Okay.
No.
Can we get it?
Sure, we can certainly share that with you. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So on this slide right here, I'm just curious about
Which one?
This one.
Okay.
This slide, the master's degree versus bachelor's, associates, etc. Do we have any information as to how we compare maybe to comparable school districts when it comes to a breakdown like this? I'm curious to know like what other districts are doing. Are we increasing the amount of master's degree teachers that we're hiring? I know we have a lot of 0 years, so that's probably not. But
I know that is going to be one of our goals, simply because of the dual credit courses that we want to be able to teach at the high school with the academies that we have. So that is a goal of ours. We can certainly try and see if we can obtain some of that information from other neighboring school districts, and we'd be glad to share that with you.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good addition to your strategic plan.
Okay.
To have information like this, yearly comparisons and comparing against other districts around, of course, as part of our HR practices. That and the yearly comparison, which you brought up on the teachers. So we did see 17, 18, and 19 for new hires, but if we have by degree earned, that would be another parameter that would be really good in your strategic plan report.
Okay.
How we can do that. No, that was it, because you did address the yearly comparison on the teachers toward the end. If we could get it under separate cover, that would be good.
Okay.
The exit interview slides, were those just teachers or were those all employees leaving?
Those are all employees.
There's no other questions. Thank you so much.
Well, and this would be something also, this was another one, the yearly comparisons. I think those are important. If we can see, because that helps us to identify trends in your planning process. If there's, some kind of extra issue on a certain year for the exit interview process, having a yearly breakdown of that.
I think that another tool that we'll be able to use in the very near future is going to be our OHI, which was part of our strategic plan, and we're going to be starting that. We've been working together with Mr. Bollinger and trying to develop that, so I think that as we start gathering some more of that data, we'll be glad to share that.
Because we love data.
Absolutely.
Throw it all at us. We want more. Thank you.
We have one from
Since we kill so many trees, can I get you some paper?
Absolutely. We'd be glad to do that to you in paper.
Print it on the back of some other report.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have consent agenda.
We have one more presentation.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I
Right.
apologize. Trying, guys.
Yeah, they cheated. Their report wasn't near long enough.
Natalie Edwards, Dr. Forte, Ginger McKay. Rick Nunez is in the audience as well for support.
Hiding.
Good evening, President Laredo, board members, Superintendent Dr. O'Brien. I have with me a team up here made up of Natalie Edwards, who is the Director of Food Service, Ms. Ginger McKay, Dr. Dorte, and myself, Dr. Price. We're going to make a short presentation on CEP. What is CEP? It is the community eligibility provision. CEP is a meal service option for local educational agencies, LEAs, or schools for high poverty areas. The CEP program was created by the United States Department of Agriculture. It is a program that provides free breakfast and free lunch for students. Now, anytime we are talking about free food, breakfast or lunch for students, that's a good thing. Anytime we can help our students in any way, that is a good thing. This program allows us to give the kids free meals by not collecting household applications. Now, eliminating household applications, the application process, and streamlining meal counting and claiming procedures may affect our district negatively. How, you may ask? By state funding. Those applications, we use that information for state funding, for accountability purposes and testing purposes. It may affect the Title I funding, E-rate funding. It may also affect several programs that we have in existence already within our district. The CEP eligibility is based on a percentage of identified students. Identified students are students who are approved or eligible for free meals who are not subject to verification or the application process. Students who are certified through the SNAP, the TANF, Medicaid, students who are runaways, students who may be migrant, who are part of the Head Start program, or homeless. These are the identified students per the definition of the CEP program. Okay? We have to remember that this program, the CEP program, allows participating LEA schools to serve breakfast and lunch free. Breakfast and lunch free. Okay? But it is saying that we do not have to collect the data from students. But do we still need that data? Yes, we do. TEA still requires the schools to provide the income data for school testing and accountability purposes. This equates to funding, school funding. Schools can continue to collect the information from families as long as it is done outside the nutrition department. Now, what does that mean? That means new responsibilities and new duties for someone or some department. What does the CEP program offer? It offers free breakfast and free lunch for all students, and that's a good thing. The extra funds from that program can only be used in the CEP program. What do we offer in our existing program now? All students have breakfast at no cost. All students have after-school supper or snacks at no cost, regardless of status. All students can receive a Saturday school meal at no cost. All students can receive a summer meal or part of the feeding program at no cost. Within our district, we have 62% of our students are eligible for free meals. 7% of our students are eligible for reduced meals and pay 40 cents for lunch. 31% of our students pay full price. That's lunch in elementary, $1.90, and $2.15 at the secondary. A very important point with our existing program is our food service fund balance is used to purchase new equipment, needed equipment, replace equipment, uniforms, school food service items, not affecting the district fund balance. Because we pull that from the school food service fund balance, it does not affect the district's fund balance. Our existing program is more financially advantageous due to the less effect on state funding and student contributions. And I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, and she's going to dive into it a little bit deeper per the PowerPoint.
Dr. Price gave you a very good overview, so I'm going to restate a lot of it and hopefully get a little clearer. So if you have a question, please let me know. So CEP was part of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010. And most everyone remembers most of that because that's what Michelle Obama championed with the changes in lunch, with the whole grain, low fat, and sodium restrictions. Well, at that time, they also wanted to target how to feed children in high poverty areas more easily. And this is how USDA accommodated for those communities at CEP. So we meet all the requirements to participate. We're a school district. We participate in the National School Lunch Program, the National School Breakfast Program, and we're in good standing with the administrative review. So every 3 to 5 years, depending on state rules, we get a full audit. So every time we've been audited, we're in compliance with state regulations. So there are things to consider. CP, you're locked in for a maximum of 4 years. You can opt in or out each year if you want to. A school district can participate. Every school, one school, some schools, group of schools, so there are multiple ways to participate in CEP. So we keep talking about identified students. And identified students is basically kids that are eligible for free meals without the family having to fill out an application. So SNAP is people that are getting food stamps, temporary assistance for needy families. We get lists. So once a month, we download that from a state database. So we download the kids that are on these programs. We also get lists from the district. We work with the homeless liaison, the runaway, the migrant department. As of the last 2 years in Texas, all pre-K students are eligible for free meals, so they're now included in that. Foster children, and we work with the school principals for students they may feel have a need for that. So again, we agree when we take on CEP, we agree to provide meals to kids at no cost, and the school district will take on any excess cost from the fund balance or however they decide to do it outside of food services. We still have to use our point of sale system because we still have to make sure we're only claiming reimbursement for one breakfast, one lunch, one after school meal per student per day. So we would still do a similar process as they come through the cafeteria, but food services will no longer process applications and be responsible for keeping up with the direct certified students as we are now. Again, just want to make sure everyone knows identified kids are kids that don't have to submit an application, a meal application. The rest of our students that are eligible for free lunch are based on the parents putting in, filling out an application with their financial data or some other data that's not been captured in the system. And that's how we determine if they're free, reduced, or paid based on the USDA guidelines that come out each July. So determining eligibility for an individual school. So the percent of identified students, again, they may be determined by individual school or school district. The USDA has selected 1.6 as its multiplier. So we take the number of identified students in April and take that and multiply that by 1.6, and that's who we determine is eligible. So this is a brief example of how we would determine reimbursement. So right now, we get reimbursed free, reduced, and paid. So CEP knocks out the reduced. So if a school has 100 students and 50% of them are in the identified group, then we take that 50% times 1.6, so we get 80% at the free reimbursement rate. And the other 20% of the kids, we will be reimbursed as a district at the paid rate. So it just breaks it down. So there is a magic number to be reimbursed totally at the free rate, but we would have to have 62.5% of our kids in this identified group. So this is a snapshot of over the years since we've started collecting data. So you can see at the beginning, we only had 31% of our students were identified. And you see how we spiked up after Hurricane Harvey. So now we're going back down, even with the pre-K being a new group added into the identified group. And you've probably seen these charts if you go online to see that we're eligible. Some schools are eligible outright, and some schools are potentially eligible. That means they would be eligible if they're grouped with another school. So these are our schools that are right now at the 62.5 or above. The point is on here, but you know, it fluctuates because the students fluctuate. Carver, Harlem, San Jacinto, and De Zavala. We could do, like I said, we could do individual schools. We could do a group of schools. So if someone wants to do the leaf feeder pattern, these are all the schools in the leaf feeder pattern, but they're still below that 62.5% as a group. So each year, every school district in the state collects the data, and we enter it by April 1st, and that's where you get those charts that we saw before. You can see it from all the districts in our state. So every district does it, and we put it in by April 1st. And it's just a real simple spreadsheet that we enter into the state of Texas. So if we elect to use CP, we would use the base year, which would, if we would start next year, this year's the base year. So we would just have to keep all of this data available for the state as to how we came up with these numbers, which is what we do. But there's some other things to consider about programs that going CP can affect. One, we just have to consider if it's financially viable. How does the non-collection of meal applications affect E-rate and Title I and any other state funds that depend on looking at our free and reduced eligibility to determine funding? I'm going to say this really quickly, and I will let Ginger dive in more. CP generally does not take away Title I funding, but it may affect how it's allocated per campus. So, and it also, obviously, if we do groups or one school or clusters, it would have a bigger impact on us as a district. It also will affect your E-rate. They still would use that 1.6 identifier, but it does have some effect on the calculations. And state comp ed funding is also affected. So the school districts still have to collect income data, even though food services is no longer the source of that data. In my research, most school districts create a form or design their own forms to get this data back from the parents. And just these important dates to remember as we go forward. So April 1 is the date that we enter who our identified students are for the year. And by June 30th, we would have to apply to participate in the program. And after that, we'd have to inform all the parents. And I'm going to let you all take over and explain a little bit more about how the funding or what funding is affected by the free and reduced data.
So I'm going to jump in really quick, Ginger. So it's odd to see Ginger and I at the table when we're talking about food service and feeding children, although we agree that that is extremely important. But the decisions that we make affects accountability directly. There are two areas that accountability is affected with. It's our relative performance in one of our domains and our campus comparison groups. And it's also directly correlated to the funding that we receive outside of food service. And so they invited Ginger and I to the party to kind of talk about what that impact might look like for us. And so Ginger's going to walk you through those pieces.
So one of the first things she talked about was the accountability, and the economically disadvantaged information is very critical to the next three pieces, which one of them is accountability. Collection of that data impacts how we can use that within the comparisons that we have. Our Title I, while the Title I money that comes from the federal government is determined by the census report, the amount of money we may receive may or may not be impacted. It shouldn't be. But what will be impacted is how the schools rank and the amount of money per pupil they would get. And so in a moment, I'm going to show you some differences that I noticed in the data so that you can kind of see that. Okay. State Comp Ed is our largest state program that we receive funding for. And I wanted you to be aware that we spend almost $12 million to help students in a variety of ways at the elementary and the secondary. So understanding how that impact would be is when you read everything, it's very vague. And so I would tell you as a federal programs director and over some of the state money, I would want to feel very sure of exactly what that impact is before I would say, go ahead and do it. And so state comp ed is incredibly important with that. So what I noticed is the data that I use to pull for the funding for Title I is based on the applications that we are giving. And so our free and reduced totals for this year that were used to fund our different campuses, 601 was what our number was, like at Alamo for free and reduced. But when you look at the identified students that would be under this CEP, there's only 466. And as you go through, you can tell we have 8526 is the total for elementary on what we use to help the schools with Title I, whereas when you look at CEP, there's only 6919. So there's some things that I'm not saying we would necessarily change, but I don't want to tell you that everything's going to be great when we haven't really looked at the numbers. Now I'll show you secondary, and even though we do not have secondary with a lot of Title I schools, depending on how this comes out with CEP, it could change up some dynamics, because Lee High School is like 0.6 before they could be considered a Title I campus, which would change the whole dynamics. What I noticed was you can tell that there's 7862 in the numbers that we did for looking at our education disadvantage for our schools, but in the identified, we have only 5993. Now, so with that information, I then looked at, well, who's participating? You know, I need to find some individuals I want to talk to. So I expected there to be some other campuses or districts around. And what I realized when I pulled all of the LEAs from the state of Texas, only 206 are participating. And of the others that could be participating, 794 are not. So you're thinking, okay, well, which ones are and which ones are not? That seems important. So what I did the breakdown of those participating. Of those participating in CEP, I found that most of the school districts that are participating are your districts who have less than 1,000 or 5,000 students. As you look in the lower, like Houston ISD and Dallas, there's only 2 with over 50,000 identified students. In our section in the middle, Goose Creek would have approximately 12,000 identified students in CEP. So I would want to have a conversation with a couple of those school districts, maybe Harlingen and McAllen, to say, tell me how that's working for you. Tell me how those state funds or the Title I funds are impacted. I want to see actual numbers. Because in my role, I want to make sure my schools know what their money is going to be or how it might be changed. And so that's important for us to consider when we're looking at how this is going to affect our campuses. And so when I was looking at it as well, I was really surprised that some of the districts that I expected might be participating weren't participating at all, like A-Leaf, Galena Park, and Pasadena. And although Aldine was participating in 2014, they stopped in 2016. So all of those things said, hey, we need to take a look at where that fits into our dynamics, because when I also looked at our surrounding school districts like LaPorte, Sheldon, Channelview, other ones, Dayton, none of those are participating either. We'd be one of our entire area that would be participating. So I think it would be in my best interest to let you know I'd like for us to look a little further into how this might impact us as a district in our community.
Are there any questions or anything we can clarify?
I think primarily just perfunctory. One of the issues is you're collecting data on parental income now as a part of food services, which makes sense. If we removed that element, we would just be asking for parental income as a part of going to school here, and that could be an obstacle.
And what I'm going to show you is I went to the TEA website just to make you laugh, because it says y'all can use our form that we use. And this is what it said: page not found. So it's like, okay, I don't even have a page. I'm looking for the information. I need it to feel like y'all are well informed about this decision.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions?
My questions were all going to be surrounding the numbers, and I don't think that that's something that y'all have done maybe yet. Is that true? I mean, because that would be where the impact is for me. Is, you know, would we be better off just paying for every student to have free lunch and breakfast out of our own pocket and maintaining the funding that we're getting now from the state and Title I, et cetera? I could see it possibly really cutting into what we've got if we go CEP, but until we have those numbers, how that impact would be on the campuses, I don't see how it's something that you would just jump onto, especially considering what you found with local districts and across the state. Those would be some things I think are very important before we made any decisions. Were what is the impact financially for our students? I mean, we'd probably be better off just paying for it out of our fund.
Thank you. I only have the question: does Natalie get the trophy? Is that?
No, I don't think it was long enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was asking for a friend, right, Kevin? Now we have consideration of consent agenda. Dr. Brown, you want me to go over these?
I'll attempt. I was gonna ask Mr. Poppy to step in if I lose my voice. Action item 8A, consideration of consent agenda, application for an optional flexible school day program for the Peter E. Highland Center, Impact Early College High School, Stewart Career Tech Early College High School. Number 2, memorandum of understanding with Lee College for Impact Early College High School. Number 3, compensation for substitutes. Number 4, select competitive seal proposals as the delivery method for the construction lab and CTE renovation projects. Number 5, select competitive seal proposals. CSP is the delivery method for the Stewart Career Tech High School Phase 4 project. Number 6, select construction manager at risk. CMAR is the delivery method for the REL auditorium project. 7, award of CSP for HVAC equipment, supplies, and related items. 8, award of RFP for electrical services. 9, award of RFP for replacement of exterior doors, weather stripping thresholds at Ross S. Sterling High School. Number 10, budget amendments as presented.
Does anybody want to take any of these items from consent agenda?
Could we pull number 3?
Which do you want to pull one, Mr. Simpson?
No, I was going to ask a question about number 3, but since you're going to pull it, I guess.
Yeah. Or we can go ahead and ask your question. It may cover mine.
Well, let's go ahead and pull it.
Okay.
And then as far as anything else, I only have a question about one, but can I get a motion for the rest?
Right.
I'll second your motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Guy and a second from Ms. Woods to accept consent agenda items A1, 2, and 4 through 10. Any discussions or questions? I have a question. On number 2, on item number 2, it says post-secondary education to underserved high school students for whom transition to college is problematic. Includes low-income, economically disadvantaged first-generation college-goers, English language learners, and students at risk of not graduating. These aren't the criteria for the kids to go in, correct?
No.
Okay. Okay. Because it looks that way.
It's what page? Once
96.
you're on that campus, you have to meet that criteria. There's a waiver that you'll fill out or an application to be granted the optional flexible school day. So a student could be at Impact, could it be at Petery Highland? Impact would look a little different. It may be that the courses they need are in the evening, so we need to make some adjustments within their school day to cover their coursework outside of the typical 8 to 3.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Adaption.
And the
Number
course,
two.
college
So we're
courses
talking
are
about
fewer
the
days.
MOU with Lee College,
Right.
I'm sorry,
not
I
the
thought
optional
we were
extended
on
day. Yeah.
Petery Highland.
I'm sorry.
I
No,
apologize.
I don't understand. On number 2, on item 2, which is the memorandum of understanding,
Okay.
Partnership support for early college high school principals. I understand those are the principals, but if somebody just pulls this up, while those might be things that we believe in, those aren't necessarily what's happening.
No, that's the requirement on the blueprint where you have to meet a certain percentage, and that's that population that you identify.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Is there any other questions? Okay, I have a motion once again from Ms. Guy, second by Ms. Woods. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-4-0 against. We have number 3, Mr. Clem.
Yeah, on the substitute pay, we're only looking to change degreed to a more competitive rate. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
What is our rate for the folks with 60 hours that are not degreed?
60 college hours daily rate is at $90.
Okay. It looks like we're trying to line up or surpass most of the surrounding districts.
Yes, sir. We surveyed 20 area districts. Yes, sir.
And we're doing that because we want to stay competitive?
We want to stay competitive, and we're also looking at other ways of trying to get more substitutes to show up and accept assignments on Mondays and Fridays.
That was my next question. What are we looking at for those days?
We are currently looking into the team system. On the survey that we did, we have some area school districts that are paying an additional $10 a day, or if you substitute on Mondays and Fridays. And we currently have a ticket in with teams to see if that's going to be something that we'll be able to do through the teams system.
So would you show us that later, or can we address
Sure,
that now?
we can certainly bring that information and share that information with you at a later date.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sampson?
That was basically what I was asking for, compensation. But that's it.
Mr. Chapa, for our people that are subs for everything else, like parapros, what is their current rate?
What we actually did was I have this Excel spreadsheet, and we had different categories in there, and I shared this information with Executive Council. And the different categories that we looked in there were paraprofessionals daily rates, paraprofessionals long-term rates, 60 plus college hours or daily rate, 60 plus college associate or long-term rates, degreed non-certified long-term rates, and we went through the list. And I shared it with council in the areas that we felt like we were a little bit below the competitive areas. Those were the areas that we're bringing forward to you tonight. The other areas that we looked at, we were still very competitive, and we felt like there wasn't necessarily a change that needed to be done in those areas.
And I'll take responsibility for that. I was trying to keep it simple, just the programs that were being impacted, but y'all would have been entitled to see the entire spreadsheet that he has in his hands there. So
You can maybe email that to us.
Absolutely.
And except for Mr. Sampson, he probably wants.
He probably wants a hard copy.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I get a motion for number 3?
I move to approve number 3.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Mr. Poppy for consent agenda item A3. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-4. Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Top. Thank you.
Only if I get the hard copy.
Next, we have future board agenda items. Is there anything anybody wants to add to our future board agenda items?
just a reminder, we'll be meeting a week from tonight.
Yes.
Team of 8 training.
Don't get sick.
I'll be well by tomorrow.
Team of 8 on Wednesday, and then we have, Monday, sorry, Monday. And then we have a small field trip on the 31st and the 1st to the valley. Some of us are going. So, all right, great. Okay, this board will now recess into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 072, 073, 074, 075, 076, 082, 083, 084, and 087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting at 7:08. Okay, the time is now 8:27. This meeting will come back from closed session. No decision were made while the board was in closed session. Dr. O'Brien.
For the board this evening for consideration of personnel, administration recommends approval of elections and acceptance of resignations as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who was the second? I have a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Mr. Cotter. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-4-0 against.
No other personnel action at this time is recommended.
We have
Move to adjourn.
Second.
a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Mr. Cotter for adjourn. Any discussion? Are you sure? Okay, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes 4-0 against. This meeting is over at 8:28 p.m. Y'all have a beautiful, wonderful evening. We'll see y'all next week.